I kind of set this up with of what's going on in the world, right? So I am now starting to frame, right? I want you to kind of recognize that whenever a message is received, the packaging tells a story about the information, and that the packaging around that information also sets a frame, and that in the framing of the information, it can make all the world of difference of whether your message gets attention. So to just jump out of this report for a second, even though we just jumped in, think about like the way I position, let's talk about the Internet Business Manifesto for a second. The way I positioned the Internet Business Manifesto was that there was a coach who coached all these people who you've seen rise, who is now going to move on to other things. He's not going to coach anymore. And before he left and stopped working with people, he wanted everyone to know certain things that make a big difference if you want to be successful. Like there's a story about the thing that is delivering the message. That story either makes that message more desirable or less desirable. What I'm trying to do is think about how desirable can I make my container for my message so that if my prospect was in a doctor's office and it was sitting there, amongst the magazines and whatever else, would they be tempted to steal it because they really wanted that information? I hope that makes sense. I'm looking at your comments. So let's take a look at how I'm framing this, right? What you now hold in your hands is a snapshot of my research over the past 12 months with my thousands of clients, including many of the most successful marketing gurus and the biggest direct response companies on the planet. You see, our world is changing. Our personal lives, our businesses, and everything that surrounds us, they're all changing. In a blink of an eye, certain weaknesses are all of a sudden strengths, and a number of strengths are now irrelevant. Disorders have become natural gifts, and a select few have already leveraged them to build thriving businesses with incredible profits. Here's my promise to you. If you understand and apply the information in this doctrine, you can build a very successful business in record time. Regardless of your past, whether you've been successful or not, no matter how many times you have tried, because right now, with this information, your ability to profit enormously has never been more certain. Back when I finished the Manifesto trilogy, I thought I'd never write another report. In fact, I was so certain I was done, I named it the final chapter. But I was wrong. Oops. All right. The calm before the storm. Something dramatic is happening in the marketplace. It's not email deliverability rates. It's not search engine optimization. It's not shift from sales letters to video, nor is it pay-per-click, banners, or any other paid advertising methods. In fact, it's nothing technical whatsoever. It isn't because marketing is less effective, although many will say it is, or that there's a lack of money, although there will be for many marketers. In fact, deeper than any of these things, it's the unfortunate price of admission many entrepreneurs will have to pay as we enter a new era. There's been a fundamental shift in the currency of our entire economy. People have simply reached a saturation point in their lives. All the cool technology, all the nifty gadgets, and many of today's modern conveniences have turned on us. For entrepreneurs who don't get it. This is going to be a growing problem. And this should be obvious, but in case, like, if we have a bunch of anybody that's relatively new to the game of marketing or copywriting, I do my best to try to not end on a sentence. I try to end mid-sentence. That is always a reason then to get people to turn to the next page. All right. For entrepreneurs who don't get it, this is going to be a growing problem, like an undetected terminal disease, slowly eating away and destroying the ability to market effectively and profit. But it doesn't have to be that way, because right here in the Attention Age Doctrine, I'm going to show you how to keep blasting on, earn massive profits, and grow your business as fast as you desire. 2.5 years ago, each of these successful entrepreneurs acted on my last prediction, and they've all become millionaires. This time, the signals are even stronger, the profit potential even greater, and the possibilities are more certain. Right now, so I'm just going to read like a little bit more, and then we'll stop, maybe another minute or two. Right now, I feel even more certain than I did back in February of 2005. Back then, I spotted an emerging trend online before anyone else did. The sharp increases in competition screamed out to me that the winners would be the first marketers to build systematized, well-running businesses. I acted immediately on this trend. I set up a pilot coaching program. Only 25 clients were accepted for the initial test run. 12 months later, the results they achieved are now legendary. Here are a few of the stories you might recognize. So this was Hans and Danny Johnson. They went from $500,000 to $6 million. There's Mike Filsaine. He went from $15,000 a month to $300,000 a month. Those of you who have spent any time around ClickFunnels, that is Jim Edwards, who is, who wrote Copy Secrets, I think, with Russell or by himself. I was ready to quit the internet. There's Rob Bell. He was the CEO of One Shopping Cart before he sold it. And there's the Grand Canyon. They went from 1.1 million to 2.1 million by the time I wrote the manifesto. And by the time I wrote this, they were at 4 million. There's someone who went from 25K a month to over 100K a month, blah, 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 right? So with results like these, my predictions proved to be dead on. So I rolled out a coaching program and to put it mildly, it was an extraordinary success. Fast forward to today, Strategic Profits helps thousands of entrepreneurs grow their businesses faster while working less, and demand for our programs keeps growing with each new success story. Anyway, so I could go on. I'm going to put this in the... I'll put this in the Facebook group, and I'll put the Attention Age Doctrine 2 in the Facebook group. But now I'm not going to read. I'm just going to scroll through. Then we're going to go back to your questions, and then we're going to talk about this some more. Okay, so I'm talking about, understand that some of this, obviously some of this is very self-aggrandizing. And unfortunately, part of being a influencer, an authority, a guru, whatever you want to call it, is self-aggrandizement. And you have to do it in a deftly way. And I probably was too overt here, and I would do it differently today. But, the world does not anoint you. You have to claim it. And so, I always make this joke when I'm around friends that, if anything good happens around me, like in a 100-yard radius, I take credit for it. It's a joke, right? But that's what gurus do, right? If anybody that I'm in action with has something great happen, I need to share that. So anyway, so you can see, like in 2006, we clobbered our 2005 numbers by a factor of 30 times. And by March of 2007, we already had surpassed what we made in 2006. We were obviously kicking some serious, what. All right, so now I pose this question, but do you understand that, I've just framed the report? I have, made a claim that, the whole world is changing and it's going to impact every business. And, the last time I said this is what happened to the people who followed my advice. And I feel much stronger about this than I felt about that. If you recognize those people, or they are familiar to you and you saw their rise, and this person is now who is who played a role in it, is now telling you that there's an even bigger chance, it should have your attention. And so that backstory is a little interesting from a standpoint of recognizing that I'm really in there. What I'm doing is I'm framing the report. I want you to look at the report in a very specific way, and that specific way is going to help me sell you later on. But first, I got to get you to buy in. First, I got to get your attention, and I got to get you to read it. And since reading is less passive than watching, I got to work a little bit harder. So why do 53 of the 75 plus gurus I've coached have ADD, right? So this now opens up a question. And since I'm talking about attention, this is a real easy way for me to now glide right into the content without any break, so that it seems like it's the same conversation, but now I'm actually introducing the concept right up front, but I'm doing it, I already said, right, it's called the Attention Age Doctrine, so I'm not making it hidden that I'm talking about attention. But by throwing in the ADD thing, I'm reminding people that I've coached more than 75 of today's top experts, right? But I'm also now leveraging the fact that a lot of people kind of think that they have ADD-like qualities. All right. And there's only one person who could say that, right? That's me, because there hasn't been anyone who's coached so many authorities and experts, period. Okay. So I'm using that to kind of say that that's an interesting question. Why did so many of my clients have successful, people at the top of their field? Why do they have ADD? And what does that mean? So you see what I'm saying here? Like, once again, reinforcing like how pivotal of a time this is. You and I both stand on the threshold of the greatest wealth building business opportunity in history. But for many, it could be a gruesome business disaster. And I believe that to be the case. Like, if you look at the biggest companies in the world at this moment, none of them were Google. They weren't any of the big companies that are of today. All of them shifted. And this was, calling it, because you'll see in Attention Age Doctrine 2, I talk about attention becoming social online. That's, and where people are going. But here, I'm trying to build up to, oh, this is so good. Okay. For those of you who have been on a lot of these live streams, I think I'm about to connect a ton of dots. A ton. And so this is going to be cool. I'm also doing something else. And it's something that I spent a bunch of time on months ago when I started doing these live streams, when I was doing it from our Hamptons house. It might have even been before I went out to the gym, but I don't remember. And I'm not going to expect anyone to remember it. I'm pretty certain it was when I was out in our gym in the Hamptons house. Anyway, if you guys remember that I talked about context and how the context is decisive. And I told you about that research study with priests in training at a seminary, and how all they had to do was tell someone they were late, and it would shift their behavior, whether they would help someone, even though they were giving a sermon on the importance of helping people. And when we talked about that, I told you that that I learned this from transformation, but it's incredibly powerful as it relates to marketing, that the context is decisive. It determines behavior. It's one of the reasons why, it was one of the reasons why when, I'm just trying to think of the examples that I used when I was telling you, like one, how New York got cleaned up, right? By not tolerating small stuff, it created a context that crime is not accepted here. It's the broken window theory. That's what I was trying to think of. So what I've always found is that there's, you can tease a benefit, and that's powerful, right? That's your common, what, people were asking me earlier about, like, if you put a strong offer in the headline, people will pay attention. You can warn people about a negative event, right? Like a hurricane coming. But that kind of negative event is actually more about a change in context, right? So I would say a negative event would be, if you don't do this thing, you're not going to be prepared for something, or you're not going to be able to grow your business or whatnot. But when you shift the context determines what behaviors are okay and what behaviors are not, right? We don't always act the same everywhere with everyone. So when you shift the context on something, old behaviors might no longer make any sense, and new behaviors might make more sense, and ways of looking at things change. So what I'm doing in this report